Okay. So we've talked about the advantages of sexual reproduction. Much of what we talk about this week is going to involve the absolutely insane things that organisms do in order to engage in it. And what a lot of this boils down to is something that we'll see coming up is that it requires less energy to make one sperm than it does to make one egg because eggs are bigger. And that means that males and females have to allocate resources in different ways. And there's various tricks that organisms can play in order to, take advantage of favorable allocations. And it turns out, for example, a surprisingly large number of species have two different types of male. Females will produce eggs, males will produce sperm, and parental males or garter males may be large and they'll defend females against intruders. On the other hand, there may be a smaller type of male, sometimes called sneaker males or cuckolder males. And sometimes these look like females. Other times they're just very small and rely on small size and speed to be able to dodge a garter male. You're looking at cuttlefish right here. Cuttlefish are relatives of squid. And yes, they do have eyes with these weird W-shaped pupils. And on the left is a female. On the right is a small sneaker male, smaller than a garter male would be. And he has snuck in under the guard of the garter male and is mating with a female, inserting a tentacle with a sperm packet into the female's mantle cavity as they do. Here's another example. This is a round goby. This is an invasive species that's spreading through the Great Lakes. And typical males expend a lot of energy in building nests, guarding nests, courting the females, doing the fish equivalent of, hey, baby, can I get your number? Getting the females to come into their nests, fertilizing the eggs. And then in this species, it's the males that stand guard over the eggs and the males that fan the eggs to make sure they've got enough oxygen in the water that surrounds them for them to develop right. So in this species, males invest a great deal of energy, not so much in making sperm, but in building the nest, in attracting the females, and in guarding the eggs. And whenever you have a case where, males have to invest a lot of energy, there's always some that are just going to cheat. So there's a preserved specimen of a typical male at the top. Below, you've got a sneaker male who, as you can see, is maybe a third to a quarter of the length, but produces more sperm than a typical male. He's got, much larger testes, and the sneaker males will slip in and fire off some sperm at the right moment to fertilize the female's eggs without being detected. Bluegills get even weirder. Here you've got a the big fish right there is a typical male. This one right here, that is a typical male bluegill. I'm assuming you've seen bluegills before. They are a common freshwater fish in Arkansas. They're stocked in a lot of places because they taste good and put up a good fight. And in this species, like the gobies, the males will build these nests in the gravel on the bottom of a lake, and the males will defend them. The males will try to attract females. So that's a male right there. There's a female right there. And then the The second type of male, the cuckolder male, when they're small, they'll act like sneakers and they will just try to slip in next to the female, release some sperm right as the female is releasing her eggs, and then get out of there before the parental male notices. But as the sneakers get larger, they switch over to being female mimics. And there's one right over there. Males that actually look like females. Um, and again, the reason is that they can get into the nest and cozy up to a real female and fertilize the males and fertilize that female's eggs without attracting the suspicion of the parental male. So I know there's been a lot of political concern about the possibility of individuals, uh, males dressing up like females and sneaking into women's bathrooms to, assault females at vulnerable moments. Humans don't really do this, but bluegills actually do. And I think the Arkansas state legislature should be informed of this. Um, in this case, in bluegills, the difference is genetically determined. In other fish species, it's environmental. But kind of odd, the concept of gender gets stretched a little bit when you see that there can be more than one strategy, more than one way of being a male. You even have 3 different types of males in an isopod. Isopods are a group of crustaceans. The isopods that you know the best are the ones that live on land. They're the roly-polies or pillbugs, whatever you choose to call them. But there's a lot of isopod species in the ocean, and this is one of them, and it lives inside sea sponges. Paracerceus sculpta. On the right, you've got an alpha type male, and alpha males will pair up with females and defend them and defend a breeding territory inside the sponge. In the center, that's a beta, and the betas can sneak past alphas because they look like females. So they don't, if you put 2 alphas together, they would fight. But a male that looks like a female, a beta male, is not going to arouse the suspicions of the alpha male. So the beta male can sneak in because he looks like females. And on the left, that's a gamma male. And those are basically fast attack sperm bombers that will swim in as fast as they can, dodge the alphas, and fire off sperm and get out of there. So you've got 3 different strategies going on in one species, 3 different types of male in one species inside one sponge, which is neat. You even get this in vertebrates. Uda stansberriana is the western side blotch lizard. It comes in 3 color forms. You've got orange-throated on the left, blue-throated in the middle, and yellow-throated on the right. And this is very convenient because the color forms of the lizard corresponds to the male's reproduction strategy. Orange-throated males will aggressively defend harems of females. An orange-throated male will defend a territory with several females living on it, and the orange-throated male will mate with all of them. The problem is that an orange-throated male can't be everywhere at once. And so while the orange male is otherwise occupied, a yellow sneaker male can sneak in and sneak a copulation from the females that belong to an orange male. Okay, so yellow can sneak in and beat an orange male. Blue-throated males are paired up, they're monogamous, and blue-throated males can chase off a sneaker male. The problem is they're not strong enough to resist an orange-throated male. So an orange-throated male can take the territory and the female of a blue-throated male, The blue-throated male can chase off a yellow-throated male. The yellow-throated male can sneak a copulation from the females of an orange-colored male. Basically, what we have is rock, paper, scissors. Each strategy is effective against a second strategy, but is defeated by a third strategy. So kind of neat to think that evolution has invented the rock, paper, scissors game. I'm guessing, I don't know that it's been formally studied, but I'm guessing that something similar would happen in the case of those sponge isopods. That not all strategies are, no strategy is going to be successful all of the time, but each mating strategy is successful some of the time and vulnerable some of the time. So this whole rock, paper, scissors business might be more common in evolution than we realize. Isn't that freaking cool? Lizards playing reproductive rock, paper, scissors. Oh. Incidentally, what you probably have going on here, by the way, is remember I talked earlier about density-dependent selection, where selection favors or what the type of selection is dependent on the frequency of the phenotype. So, for example, the example I gave was those fish in Lake Tanganyika whose mouths are twisted to attack either from the left or from the right. And when one of them is common, the prey is alerted to their presence, and the one that's uncommon is favored because that's what the prey is not expecting. So whatever is least common is what is favored. So think about this. I think this has been shown that this is also a case of density-dependent selection, and the frequencies of these three phenotypes fluctuate over periods of about 10 years. Think about it. If orange-throated males with their harems of females are the most common, then the yellows are at an advantage because they have lots of opportunities to sneak copulations. So the yellows are going to become more common. Once the yellows are more common, the blues are at an advantage because the blues can chase off the yellows. Once the blues become more common, the oranges can kick sand in the blues' faces and take their females, so the oranges become more common. So I think this has actually been shown that there's roughly a 10-year cycle during which each one of these in a given area of the desert will become more common and then sink back down. So all three strategies are maintained in the population and none ever permanently wins. Because whichever one is most common, when one becomes common, there's a second one that's favored. So when the orange is common, yellow is favored. When yellow is common, blue is favored. When blue is common, orange is favored, and round we go. Okay, another thing we can talk about looking at the evolution of sex roles. Organisms that produce gametes of both sexes over the course of a lifetime are called hermaphrodites. And hermaphrodites can either be simultaneous or sequential. This applies to animals, by the way. Plants, it tends to be a little different. But an animal that's a simultaneous hermaphrodite will produce both eggs and sperm at the same time. Usually, by the way, simultaneous hermaphrodites have ways that they don't self-fertilize. Self-fertilization is kind of the ultimate in inbreeding. And usually the anatomy or something else is wired in such a way that simultaneous hermaphrodites cannot fertilize themselves. Or they might do it as kind of an emergency measure, but they'll still seek out mates if they can. Sequential hermaphrodites begin as one sex and then switch to the other. If you start as a male and later switch to being female, that's called protandry. If you start as a female and then switch to a male, that's called protogyny. Remember that proto means first, and aner is Latin for man. So protandry is first comes the man. Gyne is female, as in gynecologist and all of that. Protogyny is first the female. So just for fun, that's a simultaneous hermaphrodite right there. That's a fish called the butter hamlet, Caribbean reef fish, that has both male and female sex organs, and two fish will pair up and switch repeatedly over the course of mating. Each one will take turns releasing eggs and releasing sperm over the course of a mating that might take a few days. Oh, if you want another example of simultaneous hermaphroditism, by the way, that's not in the ocean, earthworms. Each earthworm has both male and female sex organs, but they're in different segments of the body. So a worm can't simply fertilize itself because the sperm ducts are not in position to fertilize its own eggs. When two worms pair up, they will lie facing in opposite directions and glue themselves together with a cocoon of mucus. And they'll lie in such a way that the sperm aperture of each one discharges sperm right next to the egg aperture of the other. So they can lie there for several hours, each one producing sperm that's fertilizing the other's eggs. Perfect little yin and yang, as it were. So earthworms are a familiar case of simultaneous hermaphroditism. Clownfish are sequential hermaphrodites. Specifically, they're protandrous. As you know, if you saw Finding Nemo, clownfish live next to sea anemones. Sea anemones have a sting that will injure or drive off most fish, but clownfish are immune. So a given sea anemone will have a family group of one sexually mature male, one sexually mature female, and then a bunch of immature males. If the female is removed, the largest of the immature males becomes a mature male, and the mature male switches to being the female. And I really think Finding Nemo would have been a better movie if they followed this, because if you remember, Marlin starts out with a wife and, she lays eggs, and then a predator takes Marlin's wife. And so Marlin is left raising, Nemo, the only surviving egg. Marlin is left raising Nemo entirely on his own. Well, I think it would be a much more effective movie if Marlin was trying to raise Nemo while at the same time negotiating his own transition to Marlena. I think it would be a much, much better movie if Marlin had been changing gender while trying to be a good parent. I think it would be much more in tune with modern times. For some reason, Pixar has never tried to hire me as a consultant, and I kind of wish they would. My fees are quite reasonable. But yeah, I think that would be cool if they'd done that. Be more natural. If you want protogyny, here's some fish from the kelp forest of California. These are sheephead wrasses. In the background, you can see some of that 100-foot long kelp that you find off the coastal Southern California. These begin life as females, and the females are this dull pink color all over the body. There's a female on the left. After growing for between 4 to 9 years, they will switch to males and develop black bands. They'll develop these black heads and black tails. So there's protogyny for you. And this raises the question as to why each one of these strategies is adaptive. They're not human strategies. We don't do things like this But organisms that do have reasons for it. There's reasons why certain strategies are adaptive, even if they seem weird from our point of view, they make sense. And you often get simultaneous hermaphrodites in species where individuals can't find each other easily. Um, Earthworms are a great example because earthworms don't have much in the way of sophisticated sense organs, and they're constantly burrowing through soil. You know, it's not that common for one earthworm to encounter another. It doesn't happen every night. Earthworms can't use Tinder. Um, Earthworms can't, slime to the left or slime to the right. Um, and, if you're a male earthworm, you might not meet many other earthworms, and it would kind of be awful if all of the earthworms that you met were also male. As Woody Allen once said, going bisexual doubles your chances of finding a date. And it's certainly true here. If you're an earthworm, it is adaptive to have both male and female sex organs because that way you can mate with any other earthworm. Uh, you know, Gender is no longer relevant. You can produce sperm and receive sperm from any other earthworm that you encounter. You get a lot of fish in the deep ocean that are simultaneous hermaphrodites. The deep ocean is very sparsely populated because there's very little energy to be had. Because most parts of the deep ocean, the only source of food is ultimately dead organisms and fecal pellets and snot sinking from the productive upper layers of the ocean where there's enough light for photosynthesis. That means that in the really deep ocean, it's very sparsely populated. There's large stretches of it that just look completely deserted. Productivity is very low and populations are very low. And this tripod fish in Monterey Canyon, this Bathypteroius grallator that you see right there, has not got very good odds of finding another member of its own species. And this is probably why it's a simultaneous hermaphrodite, because it would really suck, if you find only one other tripod fish in your life and the tripod fish turns out to be the same gender as you. I mean, you can, I don't know, discuss football or something like that, but, you can't mate. And so many of these deep sea species are simultaneous like that. Each one can reproduce with any other member of its species if it's lucky enough to find one. Oh, there's other deep sea species where the sexes are separate, but the males are parasitic. This is really weird. Females develop into fairly good sized fish. Oh, if you don't know deep sea anglerfish, though, that horrifying thing with the light on its head that kept trying to eat marlin and dory when they're trying to find the scuba mask that will lead them to Nemo, right? Remember that bit? That thing with a huge number of teeth that attacks them is a deep sea angler. And this is another thing that they should have included. The female anglerfishes are fairly big. The males are a lot smaller. And in some species, this varies a bit, but in some species, the male basically consists of, it's basically a testicle that can swim, but the male may also have very large sense organs, huge eyes or huge nostrils. And when a male is mature, all he will do is search for a female. And if he finds her, he will latch on. So in some species, he will just stay very close. But in other species, he will bite the side of the female and permanently latch onto her. And in some species, their tissues will grow together and the male will actually become an appendage of the female. Her circulatory system will pump blood for both of them. She'll provide nourishment for both of them. he just becomes this little separate organ on the female, producing sperm and doing absolutely nothing else. Yeah, that black sea devil right there is pretty much the model for the deep sea anglerfish that almost ate Nemo and Dory. Although that particular one, I think they made scarier than real ones tend to be. So yeah, Melanocetus johnsoni, this one, the black sea devil, the males can still swim freely, but they'll latch on to females temporarily. It's in the ghostly sea devil where the male's tissues fuse with the female's tissues. Here's a female that is dragging around two separate males that have latched onto each other and their tissues have become one. Yeah, talk about becoming one flesh. Yeesh. Oddly enough, you get a similar thing happening in a very different species. This is the green spoonworm. They start out as free swimming larvae, and larvae eventually will settle to the bottom and develop into females. And this is a female whose body might be 10 centimeters long. That's roughly 6 inches, 7 inches. And that proboscis sticking out to the lower right can stretch up to 2 feet. So that's a free living female with a full set of organs. A larva that touches a female's proboscis develops into a male, and the males are millimeter size, and they burrow into the female's body and take up residence inside a special chamber that's connected to her kidneys. So there is a female right there. And again, she can have a body up to 8 centimeters long. I guess that's more like 5 inches, but the proboscis can stretch 2 meters. The male over there on the right is millimeter sized, and there may be dozens of millimeter sized living inside one kidney of a female, which presumably comes equipped with a very big couch, a widescreen TV, and a large supply of beer. Because that's what you need if you have, dozens of males taking up residence in your home. Right. Sorry, slightly fatuous joke right there. But you actually get this a lot. Darwin noticed it doing one of his studies of, he put forth his ideas in letters to his friends back around 1840, 1841, 1842. And one of them said, what you really need to do is find a group of animals or plants and test your theory very carefully in regard to this one group. I mean, it's all very well to come up with these, this far-reaching proposal that, if true, would affect all of, be true for all living things. But how does it really stand up when you check it against the details of one specific group? Darwin ended up putting out, spending 10 years of research, putting out 4 volumes on living and fossil barnacles. And he found the same thing there. He looked at the South American barnacles that he brought back from the Beagle voyage. Barnacles are these odd crustaceans that live attached to rocks, by the way. And because they live permanently attached to rocks, males can't just go out and find females when they're ready to mate. Males can't go dating because everybody is permanently stuck where they've settled. Some males have evolved exceptionally long penises, that can, reach up to a foot away from where the male is. So the male can just unreel a hose and wave it around and hope there's a female in his radius. Some barnacles are hermaphroditic, and some barnacles have dwarf males that will settle on a female, and the bodies basically consist of nothing but a testicle and a penis inside a little sac. Darwin actually dissected some of these. They were tiny. And he actually writes about the excitement of discovering a male with a probosciform penis, wonderfully developed. And again, all of those strategies can be seen in relation to the environment. If you're in a situation where it is unlikely that you're going to find a female, one possible strategy is simultaneous hermaphroditism, so that you can mate with anybody. Another possible strategy is for males to specialize in nothing but reproduction, and in the case of anglerfish, specialize in means of finding a female. That's basically the ability to swim and big sense organs, and latch onto that female and never let go. I don't know if you remember the heavy metal power ballad from 1991 that went, "I'll never let you go." That's certainly true for anglerfish. That's another thing they didn't put in Finding Nemo. That anglerfish that tried to eat Nemo and not Nemo, Dory and Marlin was female and should have had a few males latching on to her. I'm a little annoyed that they didn't show that. So where finding a mate is a problem, one possible answer is simultaneous hermaphroditism, so that you're ready to go with anybody. Another possibility is for males to have this lifestyle where all they have to do is find the female and then they just latch on, as in spoonworms and deep sea anglerfish. Okay, why is sequential hermaphroditism favored? This was worked out by Mike Gieselin at the California Academy of Sciences. He points out that producing eggs costs more energy than producing sperm. That's by definition, eggs are bigger than sperm. That's the official definition of what an egg cell is. It's not sex chromosomes, because many animals haven't got those. And others, if they have sex chromosomes, sex determination is completely different. Birds, for example, females are XY and males are XX. So it's not that. The only difference between an egg and a sperm is an egg is larger. And eggs often contain yolk or other resources that the embryo is going to need. So producing eggs costs more energy than producing sperm, and the available energy is a function of body size. If you're small, you can produce a lot more sperm than you can eggs. As you grow, you're going to produce more sperm, and that increase is going to be more or less linear. So if you're small, you're going to have more babies if you can be male, because females may be too small to produce very many eggs at all. Once a female crosses a size threshold, once she's able to produce enough eggs, she will have more reproductive success, right here where this graph starts going up. Once a female gets large enough that she has enough energy to produce significant numbers of eggs, then it becomes good to be a female. So a large individual can produce more eggs. So being female maximizes potential. For males, it's different, because producing each sperm takes very little energy. So, if an organism is very small, he'll have much better luck as a male than as a female. So this explains protandrous sequential hermaphroditism, the species that start as male and switch over to female. That's Gieselin's size advantage model. But what about the reverse? In Pacific wrasses, They're territorial, and this is another species where the males defend harems of several females. A small male is going to get sand kicked in his face. A small male can't defend against a large male. Males have to get to a certain size to have any hope of reproducing at all. So in this case, a fish's best move is to start female because she can start producing eggs, and for several years she can grow. She'll gain size and strength, and once she's big enough that she can contend with the other males, then she can switch over and become a male himself. So under that circumstance, protogyny is favored. In cases where you don't have, in cases where males don't have to be big to defend their females and their territories, protandry may be favored. And then in cases where encountering each other is rare because you're sparse, simultaneous hermaphroditism is often favored. That's not the only reasons why you might see strategies like these, but I want to emphasize that strategies like these make sense. They sound weird from our point of view. Nature does not care about what we think of as weird or not. They work. Um, the mating system of Antechinus marsupials, where the males turn into rotting sex zombies, is horrifying. If people did that, it would be a horror movie, but it works for Antechinus because Antechinus has been around for many thousands of years, surviving successfully in some cases, very harsh environment. It works for Antechinus. All of these things, as strange as they are, they make sense. And as evolutionary biologists, it's our job to find out, what sense it is that they make. Whew, okay. That's not the end of the day, but that's the end of where I'd gotten my slides to. I've got 10:54. Let us reconvene at 11:10. So this one went a little short. The first one went a little long. We'll reconvene at 11:10 and put in another hour. So you've got 15 minutes to go caffeinate or do what you need to do. And I will stop the recording now.